Welcome to my channel. Please enjoy the video.
Okay guys, so it has been confirmed that Sparkle's niece may be working with the authorities in R.Kelly's federal trial case. So as we know, that young girl who was recorded in that infamous and widespread tape of R.Kelly engaging in sexual acts is going back on years of precedents and cooperating with the investigators in the child pornography case against the R&B singer. So to some people who know about this case, you may recall that in 2008, there was a trial against R.Kelly in Chicago. The girl in that tape, who we know who she is, Mrs. Landfair, along with her family members, refused to testify against the singer. This decision, many believe, ultimately resulted in the jury acquitting the singer, but that has changed since 2008. Guys, this is a clear-cut showing of exploitation in Hollywood. Her parents should have been arrested. Now, guys, previously in the comment section, people were telling me that Mrs. Landfair's father passed away recently, and the same with Aaliyah's father. These cases are eerily similar. And everybody is throwing much shade on Jocelyn Azrael and all Faith of the girl Faith Rogers. Everybody is throwing shade. But if you guys can recall, and people are saying R.Kelly did nothing criminally wrong, I highly disagree. Aaliyah was 15 years old and Mrs. Landfair was 13 years old. These are the two women that I'm focusing on. You don't see me making videos about Jocelyn and Azrael. I'm not saying that they don't matter, guys, but it matters when you're underage. Okay? So Ricky Smiley was talking about this on his show. And he stated our society's awareness and understanding of sexual assault has increased while Kelly's funds has dwindled. I don't really care about R.Kelly's money. I only care about his actions. So good news, guys. According to the New York Times, the extent of this girl's cooperation with authorities isn't clear at this moment, but her lawyer, Christopher R. Brown, she does have a lawyer. He spoke out and he said that she does have a willingness to work with the authorities days after Kelly was accused in that federal indictment of paying the girl and her father to lie to the investigators. Anytime that a parent exploits their child for money, they need to be arrested. They are in cahoots with the person that's doing it. And guys, the dad, this is the father. Okay, he passed away recently, but he accepted gifts from R.Kelly. These people are doing bribes. Like I said, R.Kelly should not be the only person on trial here in many of these cases. Okay, so I had a clip of Sparkle speaking out. Sparkle sacrificed her career. Okay, she didn't sell out. But Sparkle could not take her niece by the hand and go ahead and indict R.Kelly. It was up to Sparkle's sister, which was Mrs. Landfair's mother. And there's so much I want to say about her. And Mrs. R.Kelly, girl, you knew what was going on because he had your ass in the dungeon too, sis. You had to knock on the door from the inside of the door to say, may I come out to get something to eat? Okay, R.Kelly's ass needs to go to jail too, and she needs to get on that stand and testify as well. And I'm not going to throw any accusations out there about R.Kelly and his daughter or him doing anything to his daughter, baby, but the apple does not fall far from the tree. Allegedly, okay? R.Kelly is holding in a lot of secrets. So for people coming out saying that R.Kelly is all about the money, no, R.Kelly wants to keep breathing. Now, Mrs. Landfair's father accepted those gifts and that money from R.Kelly to not press charges and have R.Kelly arrested in that federal trial. He clearly pimped his daughter out. So he did this to protect him. And in that indictment, Kelly gave the girl and her family gifts, money, and before and after that trial in exchange for her to lie to the investigators, being unavailable for interviews and refusing to testify against him. This is sickening. Yeah, this is the father right here, okay? Did he get a piece of his daughter as well? Think about it, guys. Come on now. Now, it was clearly stated by Sparkle that she would come to the studio and see her niece there all along without her parents. And she would ask her, "What are you doing here? How did you get here?" And she would call and try to straighten that situation out and tell her dad, "Come and get my niece. What is she doing down here in the studio with these men all by herself?" But nobody is putting charges. If I was Sparkle, I would have put charges against my sister to have her arrested for selling and exploiting my niece. Now, y'all, I'm telling y'all, just alone in this case, if R.Kelly is convicted for this videotape, and if this girl gets up there and testifies, and I'm praying, he could face the maximum of 195 years in prison. Prosecutors believe that there were many more girls beyond that. Okay, so we already know these girls are testifying in this trial. But see, people have been subpoenaed to come in, right? And this is federal. So why hasn't Mrs. Landfair, Sparkle's sister, the dad has died and he can't come in? They all need to be subpoenaed, but they're saying that she's working with authorities now. So for all of the bloggers who are out there posting saying that everybody is so emotional about this, yes, because people are parents and they know they wouldn't put their children, and they're normal enough to know right from wrong and say, "I wouldn't do that to my child." So of course you're going to be emotional, okay? And anybody who is not emotional about this, and they want to just say, "Look at the facts do make you emotional." That was clearly Mrs. Landfair, and we have to keep it at allegedly, in that infamous videotape, okay? And shame on Dave Chappelle. Everybody was laughing about that. I don't think that was funny for him to even make a spoof about that. That was nothing to be joking about. And so since now Mrs. Landfair came out and Sparkle learned of her niece's willingness to have full cooperation with the authorities, they made this public, and Sparkle says that she's very thrilled about this. So she said, "Beyond pleased to finally hear that the mountain I've tirelessly worked on moving over the years is now being assisted with the help of my niece and her parents," well, her mother. "Of course, I have full unwavering support for them and their act of courage." I don't care what anybody says. R.Kelly is a very sick individual. There is no rehabilitation for him. He likes what he does. He was very pleased at what his sister introduced him to. And we can't just blame her, guys. We have to blame the cycle. And the cycle has to stop somewhere. And most of all, I know that all of these girls, Aaliyah, rest her soul, Mrs. Landfair, and countless other women and young girls who have faced pain in the hands and in the actions of R.Kelly, no one is suffering more than his children, his innocent children. And I pray to God that those things does not rub off on them, and I pray that they grow up to have beautiful children and love and protect their children. But Drea, girl, sis, you got some explaining to do, because like I said, y'all, Drea, R.Kelly some kind of way got his children and Drea to leave the house when bringing Mrs. Landfair there. How do you guys think that tape was recorded? Drea was not standing behind recording it, I don't think. But it was stated that R.Kelly got her to leave the home with the children on some weekends when Mrs. Landfair came over. This clearly shows that the parents were aware, and they were co-conspirators with this dealings with R.Kelly. And this was all about money, and this was exploitation. This was very sick and very cruel. And I get so emotional talking about it, because I can't believe how her parents were allowed to sell their daughter and not face any jail time, and saying that they refused. You mean to tell me he was able to have a tape recording of sexually abusing this 13-year-old girl, and her parents were allowed to not have her testify, and this was a federal case, and they didn't push it and say, well, subpoena, And they let this go on. Like I said, guys, Mrs. Landfair should have been Jane Doe number 2. Barry Hankerson was fully aware, like I said. He was fully aware, allegedly, about Aaliyah. He was fully aware about Mrs. Landfair. And he was even present when R.Kelly was speaking with Sparkle and her mother and father. And R.Kelly said some really cruel, sexual, devious, evil things to Sparkle in front of her mother and father. And Barry Hankerson was sitting right there at the table, guys. Yes, I'm about to bring some more receipts and tea. Truth. Let's just hope everybody can swallow this big ass pill, because like I said, with every week, starting in the month of August through September through this trial, things are coming out left, right, up and down field, and surprises are coming out, and more things we don't even know what is coming out is surely to come. And so I want you guys to get it correct. Sparkle did introduce her niece. Well, she introduced her sister and brother-in-law to R.Kelly, and she said her family was all about music. They wanted to get into the music industry. But then she said after she introduced them, that's when they start bringing the little girl around him. Okay? So for all the people that's trying to say that Sparkle pimped her niece out and exploited her, no, she did not. I am not going to believe that, guys. Okay? I'm not going to believe that. Because in that federal trial in 2008 back in Chicago, Sparkle was the only one who got up there and testified against R.Kelly. Do you see how Sparkle's coming out? Do you see how Sparkle's not a part of that? She was the only one to testify. So her testimony meant nothing without Mrs. Landfair at the time or her parents. They stayed in the background and they stayed quiet. Does that ring a bell? Diane Haunton, Michael Haunton, Rashawn Haunton, Barry Hankerson? Okay. Sparkle would always call her niece's family members. She would call her sister and her brother-in-law every time she found out that her niece was alone in the studio with him. And that's all that she could do, guys. It wasn't up to her to go ahead and take her home. They should have been there with their daughter. But Diane Haunton claimed again she was always with Aaliyah. We know that's a goddamn lie, guys. Y'all know that's a goddamn lie. So why does Mrs. Landfair and Aaliyah's parents have so much in common and are so quiet about R.Kelly hurting their young daughters? This shit pisses me off, guys. But justice is coming. R.Kelly is going to pay. He is not going to walk away. People are trying to say, other bloggers, I'm watching other videos, that the prosecution side is trying to make it seem like they're just going all the way with R.Kelly, and they're saying that the defense is coming on real strong. This is a federal case, and everybody needs to be grabbed. Mrs. Landfair needs to be grabbed. Aaliyah's already included in this federal trial, and Mrs. Landfair needs to be grabbed and made to testify. Okay? So let's go ahead and let's see what Sparkle had to say. And wait a minute, y'all. I'm hearing that K. Michelle even knew about these girls in R.Kelly's house. And she came out telling some terrifying stories about R.Kelly paying women to act like fish in an aquarium in his home. I don't care what nobody say. R.Kelly is a sick man and he deserves to go to jail forever.
Well, we'll say this first. The documentary was good, and it gave a lot of information I didn't even know. But a few things that I particularly wanted to expound upon was the fact that I didn't leave my niece in the studio by herself. Number one. I saw her that evening walking into the studio to record for my album. And seeing her, I was just like, wait, what you doing here? Who's with you? Because I didn't see anybody. And she was like, oh, I was dropped off. And I was like, huh? Immediately got on the phone with my sister. What y'all doing? why is she down here by herself? And then maybe 30 minutes to an hour later, my brother-in-law was walking in the door. So I never, ever left my niece alone, anywhere, for that matter. Another piece that I think was left out actually, is that I just introduced my niece to Robert, which was not true. Yes, I did introduce her, but I introduced a bevy of family to him. I introduced her correctly. Her parents brought her down to the studio, and that's where the introduction happened. It wasn't her by herself. It wasn't me picking her up, and her parents came, and that's how the introduction happened. Like I stated, I introduced most of my family to Robert because we're a musical family, you know what I'm saying? And he had just gotten the green light on a new situation at Interscope Records, where he was taking me, and where my debut album actually came from. And I wanted him to possibly put my family on, you know what I mean? Bless them like he was blessing me. Bring them into stardom as he was about to do with me. You know what I mean? So, and I didn't want to be selfish with my gift. I wanted to spread the love, like I stated, because we are a musical family. And, maybe he could position them in some spots that were unfilled yet. Because having a new situation, you're going to need some bodies, right? You're going to need some, extra hands or some extra artists. So, my niece was a dope rapper at the time. My other nieces and nephews that I introduced him to also, they had great success overseas. And so maybe he can bring them on, as artists. My brother-in-law, who I introduced him to, which was my niece on the tapes, father, he plays guitar, dope guitarist. I begged Robert to give him, a try. He did, and he's on many of his CDs now. So yeah, that's another thing that I wanted to clear up. And also about the Andrea situation, Robert's ex-wife, the situation where I speak about, I hear somebody knocking. And, he does a, come on, she peeps out and says, can I come get something to eat? She's coming down the stairs, and I am staring at Robert like, how dare you? How dare you? You are a piece of work. And he saw the he felt me because he kept looking at TV, right? But when he felt it, he looked over at me and he just started. And I was like, forget my language, nigga, that shit ain't funny. And I said those words to him, and I said, how dare you? So I wanted to clear that up. So. Let's go there. 89, I met Robert. A girlfriend of mine took me down to the studio, and she wanted me to sing for him. I didn't sing that particular time. So 89 to 92 had no really interaction with Robert at all. I would see him out in clubs here and there, whatever, but no interaction. 92, I started dating one of the guys in Public Announcement, which led me back to Robert. And he got to hear me sing at that particular time and wanted me to come down to the studio to sing some backgrounds for a new artist that he was working with. Unbeknownst to me, it was Aaliyah. Got to work and do most of the backgrounds on her album, except for AJ None But a Number. And at that point, I was working a 9-to-5 job, okay? I was leaving that job, coming to the studio to do another job. And there was very little. Me and Aaliyah interacted, a little bit, but I was there to do a job. So there wasn't much interaction. She was around the studio. There were 3 other girls who Robert had brought on prior to me, and they were the group called Second Chapter. I don't know if you listen to Aaliyah's first album and you hear reference of the group Second Chapter. Those are the girls who were backing Aaliyah up, kind of like R.Kelly in Public Announcement, if you will. So yeah, I didn't see anything out of the ordinary in that time. This was 92 when I came back around and I started singing the backgrounds for her debut album. Now, mind you, her uncle, Barry Hankerson, is there. He's Robert's manager. Her parents are there. I wasn't thinking of or even think to look for anything, at that particular time. So, I was there to do the job. Like I said, I would go home, come back, and do the, same job over and over again until we were done with the Aaliyah project. And then I had no connection or any, dealings with Robert until 1996. So I wasn't there a steady period of time to see anything. You know what I mean? And in 96, when I was called upon to do more background, I, was singing in the studio, doing the background, what have you. And 2 songs in, he came into the booth with me and he was like, look, we're not just going to be working on anybody's CD this time. This is yours. And I'm like, yo, whoa. All right, let's go. Of course, I was elated by it because I'm like, yo, I'm about to work on my own stuff now. This is about to be great. So that happened, 96. Going to 97 is, I want to say 97 is the year I introduced my niece to him. Early 97, I do believe. And then there was a hiccup. And the hiccup was, I had a boyfriend. Robert didn't want me to have a boyfriend. Now, mind you, Robert liked me, of course. Not of course, but Robert liked me. And I wasn't given into his advances toward me. He was a handsome guy, but I wouldn't go there. You know what I mean? And it was just something about him too. But anywho, there was a situation where Robert had told me that he was taking only me to Interscope Records and not the other acts that he had kind of brought in. They would be staying on Jive Records. So now I told someone about this, and that person went back and told Robert that I told. Then the fact that I had a boyfriend, he didn't want me to have a boyfriend. This all played into his, I guess, insecurity. And he decided to take my deal away from me. And this went on for some months. We didn't speak. He didn't call. I didn't call him. And then a meeting was to take place. Someone called a meeting to get us back into good graces. And I'm certain it was probably something to do with Interscope Records because they had spent out a pretty penny on me. I had done the Be Careful video already. The promotions and stuff had kind of started. So they would be losing money if he were to do this. So a meeting was called, and we met at a hotel near the O'Hare Airport in Chicago. Barry Hengerson, which was his manager at the time, Robert, me, and I wanted my parents to come with me. Then my sister, with the girl on the tape, and my brother-in-law also came because now they're like this. They thick as thieves right now. Without me, I'm not in the picture. You know what I mean? They stayed. And a couple other family members also were there. Barry Hankerson and Robert, me, and my parents. The meeting got along. Barry Hankerson was doing a lot of the talking. Robert did speak some. And what he said out of his mouth next, I almost sank down into the chair that I was sitting in. He stated to my parents, your daughter's so fine, I jerk off just looking at her. To my mom and my dad. Do you know how I felt at that moment? My mom and my dad, you know what I mean? So that happened. We left the meeting. I was appalled. My dad spoke some words to me, which I won't repeat, but I should have listened to him. Just let me say that. Then we kind of didn't really gel that well, but I came back on. Then 99 happened, and I was starting to work on my second album. I asked to be released from him in 99 because it wasn't a happy place for me anymore, and because he was trying to insert himself in my personal life, and I wasn't cool with that. So I asked to be released. he finally granted me the release, and then I went on to Motown. So I had nothing to do with him from that point on. Later on, mid 2001, I get a phone call, two actually, from two separate people in Roberts Camp. And they stated to me, yo, you need to see what's up. Your niece is down here by herself. Something don't look right, something not right. You need to check this out. So what I did was I called my sister and I screamed at her like, what you on? You know, what's going on? What are you doing? I'm hearing rumblings that my niece is down there by herself. What's up? So she was like, oh no, everything is cool, you know, nothing is going on, you know, just oblivious, naive, or whatever she is at this point. And so what I did next was I myself, along with two of my girlfriends, called the Department of Children and Family Services. Now, this is before the tape even surfaced, or me even knowing anything about a tape. I called them because I wanted them to check some stuff out. And they did. They came out to my parents' house. They spoke to my sister-in-law, my sister and my brother-in-law, and my niece. And my brother-in-law stated to them, oh, nothing is going on. No, because if anything was going on, I would deal with him. Okay. So, of course, they felt that I'm the culprit. I did that deed. I called that number and had them investigated, you know. So now they've taken a back seat and I'm not included on anything at this point. If I enter the room, it's crickets. You know what I mean? Late 2001, probably September-ish, my family had a bowling party, and I end up going to it. And guess who's there? Robert. And I'm like uneasy, and I want to snap off, but it's too many people there. And if I were to do anything, you know, it would be crazy up in there. So we did have a few words, and he was like, yo, you know, we still family, you know, yeah, here go my number. Won't you call me? You can come down to the studio. It's still what it is. I ain't call him. I ain't go to no studio. I ended up leaving very quickly.
And she spoke out and she never defended him the way Diane Horton is, the way that her sister is, and her sister's husband, late husband. This is so sad, guys. So sad.
Hey guys, thanks for watching my video. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the notification bell.